Roger.
All right, good evening and welcome everyone to our Board of Education meeting for October. We are going to get started with a few administrative items, the Pledge of Allegiance, and then we'll jump right into the honorees for October, students of the month. Right? So, the Public Meetings Law is enacted to ensure the right of the public to advance notice of and to attend meetings of public bodies, at which time any business affecting their interest is discussed and acted. In accordance with the provisions of this Act, the Board of Education Policy 0162, the Board of Education of the Borough of Mount Brook has posted notice of this meeting to be posted in the board office at Mount Brook High School, and mailed their fax to the Courier News, Mount Brook Borough Clerk, South Mount Brook Board of Education, and any person who has requested individual notice and paid the required fee. Please stand with me for the pledge of allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Mr. Gorski, roll call, please. Mr. Bell.
Here.
Mr. Dawson. Here. Ms. Gazino.
Here.
Ms. Carlton.
Here.
Mr. Zupko. Ms. Moosen. Mr. Minhas.
Here.
Ms. High.
Here.
Mr. Bulmer. Here. And Mr. Janucci. Here. Mr. Board President, you have a quorum present this evening. Thank you, Mr. Gorski. We are up to item 2.1, Superintendent's Report. Over to Dr. Freed.
Okay, good evening, everybody, and welcome to our October board meeting. At this time, I would like to call up for our students of the month. Our first presentation will have Dr. S.
So, good evening. Congratulations to Haley Vega Rivera in Miss Sanchez class. Haley has a brother named Luke. Her favorite school subject is learning about letters, and her favorite hobby is playing with Play-Doh. When she grows up, she wants to be just like her father. Congratulations, Haley. Congratulations to Samara Castro Galicia in Miss Norhouse and Mrs. Cortez class. Samara has two big brothers and one big sister. Her favorite school subject is coloring and painting, and she enjoys watching TV. When she grows up, she wants to be a teacher. Congratulations, Samara. Hey, congratulations to Christopher Solis in Miss Picado's class. Christopher has an older brother and sister. He loves to learn, and his favorite hobbies include saving money to buy candy and listening to music. When he grows up, he wants to be a businessman and sell ice cream. Congratulations, Christopher. Felicidades, ¿cómo está? Perfecto.
One last round of applause followed by Lamont and the students of the month. And next up from Lafayette School is Chaos. for the people dressed. All right?
Our second grade student of the month. Our second grade student of the month is Jamila Sanan Aguilar. She is from Miss Ciampa's class. She has a sister named Allison. Her favorite school subject is art. Jamila is a growing artist. She loves to paint, draw, and color. She also loves playing with her baby sister, Allison. And when she grows up, Jamila wants to become a doctor. Congratulations.
Congratulations. Okay, you're gonna go right back there, okay? Watch your step here.
Our third grade student of the month is Sophia Moran Cortez. Sophia is in Miss Civilella and Mrs. Glassman's class. She loves reading, she loves playing house, and when she grows up, she wants to be a teacher. Congratulations, Sophia.
Congratulations.
You got that, Mom? Yeah, I'm good. Okay. Congratulations.
Congratulations. Yep, those are yours.
Congratulations to all of our Lafayette students. Next up, from smaller school, we have Mrs. Winter.
So our fourth grade student of the month comes from Miss Batak's class, Rafael Gonzalez.
Come on down, Rafael.
Rafael has a sister, one sibling, 7 years old. His favorite subject is math, and in particular, he says he loves rounding and multiplication. His favorite hobby is soccer, and he plays center field, which is a very important position in soccer. And his career plans is that he wants to be a policeman.
Yeah.
Sorry. That's okay. Congratulations. Way to go.
Congratulations. Our fifth grade student of the month comes to us from Miss Lowski's class, and that's Angeli Miranda. So Angeli has 4 siblings, 3 sisters and a brother. Her favorite subject is art and gym. Her favorite hobbies are gymnastics and dance, and her career plans are to be an Olympic gymnast or professional dancer. Congratulations.
Congratulations.
And our 6th grade student of the month, coming to us straight from Miss Bell's class, who's with us tonight, is Manan Carrico. So Manan has a brother in middle. Her favorite subject is math, specifically dividing fractions. She likes to play video games, hang out with her brother, and she would like to be a famous baseball player.
Let's have another round of applause. And next up for Community Middle School, Dr. Santa Sermon.
Hello, everyone. First up for Student of the Month from the Community Middle School in 7th grade, Mason Lane. There he is. Mason was nominated by his teacher, Mr. Heiser, which is a really sought-after nomination every year. Mason has one sibling and enjoys computers class, physical education, and film. Favorite hobbies is playing basketball, and when he grows up, wants to be a basketball player and own his own clothing line. That's for you. Let's open this up. There we go.
Ready? Let's see. All right.
Good job, guys. Next up for the Community Middle School in grade 8, Javante Tony. Javante has two siblings and favorite subject is math. Favorite hobbies are basketball, football, video games, and spending time with friends. And when he grows up, wants to be an FBI agent or professional gamer.
All right, ready?
Oops.
1, 2, 3. All right. Square root of 144.
Congratulations.
One last round of applause by CMS Dr. Sermon, High School, Mr. Smith.
Good evening, everyone. Our first recipient for Crusader Citizen of the Month is Daniel Rom. Daniel has one older sibling named Joseph. He's a graduate of Boundbrook High School as well. His favorite subjects in school would have to be Intro to Drawing, which allows him to let his mind run free and his creativity run wild. His favorite hobbies are playing basketball, hanging with friends, and building things with his hands. In the future, he hopes to own his own business after attending the Institute for Culinary Education in Manhattan. So it's a culinary arts school. And when you do, invite me to your restaurant, bud.
You don't have to.
I want a table too.
I got you. I got you. Smile. Smile. All right.
Thank you very much, buddy. Our next recipient is unable to attend tonight, but I'm going to read his little bio anyway. Anthony Garcia. Anthony Garcia has one sister. His favorite subject is art as well. His favorite hobbies include skating with his friends. And as for his future career plans, he's considering taking up law. So congratulations, Anthony. Our next recipient, I'm unsure if he's able to attend tonight either, but Caden Bally. Caden Bally has other older siblings, but they do not attend Boundbrook High School. His favorite subject in school is environmental science. He enjoys playing games, in particular playing football and sports in general. And his future career plans include a career in law in some capacity. So, the lawyer. And last but certainly not least, our final recipient for the high school is Andrea Obando Carrera. Andrea has one sibling, Josué David Obando Carrera. She loves math and ELA, but also loves to learn and listen about the history of our country. She loves to sing, play the piano, go to church, and listen to music when she washes the dishes daily. Lastly, she loves to watch movies as well. In the future, she wants to either be a lawyer, a business administrator, or a surgeon. She's going to work hard and see what God and life brings her. Thank you.
Okay, at this time, we'd like to call forth our employee. If you can get away from. You can bring it down if you like. I don't think you're gonna be able to get away from this one.
So the employee of the month for the district is a member of the high school team. His name is Mr. Kevin Thomas. So a little bit about Mr. Thomas, who I've been working with for several years now and has become a great colleague and friend. Kevin Thomas is a dedicated and passionate educator who consistently upholds high standards for his students while fostering an environment of accountability and growth. His commitment to academic excellence is evident in the way he sets clear expectations from day one, ensuring that students understand the goals they are working toward and the steps needed to achieve them. His ability to balance rigor and support has made him an invaluable asset to our school. One of Kevin's most significant contributions has been his role in the school-wide implementation of the AVID program, which stands for Advancement via Individual Determination. He has seamlessly integrated AVID's WICR strategies focused on writing, inquiry, collaboration, organization, and reading to learn into his daily lessons. These methodologies not only enhance student engagement, but also promote critical thinking and collaborative learning. His lessons are dynamic and hands-on, offering students real-world applications of the concepts they are studying in science. Whether it's through group projects, inquiry-based activities, or case studies, Kevin ensures that students see the relevance of their education beyond the classroom. In addition to his innovative approach to teaching, Kevin has embraced technology by incorporating digital notebooks into his curriculum. This has helped students stay organized, track their learning progress, and improve their study habits, skills that will serve them well both in their academic and professional futures. Kevin is also known for his collaborative spirit and willingness to contribute to the broader success of the school community. He is always ready to lend a hand to colleagues, whether it's assisting with departmental projects, co-developing lessons, or mentoring new teachers. His dedication to teamwork has strengthened our school's culture of collaboration and continuous improvement. This year, Kevin has taken on the additional challenge of teaching AP Physics, demonstrating his commitment to personal growth and expanding his skill set. His enthusiasm for the subject and his innovative teaching methods promise to make this course a success, providing students with a high-level academic experience. Beyond his professional experience, Kevin excels in building strong connections with his students. He knows how to balance high expectations with genuine care, motivating students to rise to the occasion while ensuring they feel supported. His approach helps students develop not only academically, but also as individuals who are prepared to take on future challenges. It is for these reasons, among many others, that Kevin Thomas has been selected to represent Bound Brook High School as Staff Member of the Month. His tireless work, positive attitude, and unwavering dedication to student success make him a true role model for both students and colleagues alike. Congratulations, Kevin.
Thank you so much. Congratulations. Thank you. Smile. You see keys?
All right. Thank you.
Good job.
Another round of applause for Mr. Thomas. Okay, this time we'd like all parents and students of the month to come forward to be recognized on stage to take a picture.
Let's go.
Let's see, one second, folks.
Congratulations.
Come on down.
Come on, 2 rows, 2 rows.
In front of us.
Pull him down. Big 2 rows. Maybe the little guy should come down. We're looking at 2 rows, I don't know.
Okay.
Give me a breath. You're the important people. I don't know, they can tell us if we need to move further than.
Are we good? Yeah, I don't want to be right.
Slide down a little just to let the last few people. Okay, come forward.
Oh, perfect, right here.
Made it for you.
There we go.
Angel.
The pictures.
All right.
Good job.
All right, we'll just take a quick recess to allow our technology people to get set up and be prepared for Mr. Ross's presentation. So just sit tight for 1 minute.
Okay, next we have Mr. Ross, who is going to present our spring 2024 NJSLA data. Mr. Ross, you're on.
Okay, hello, folks. How are we tonight? Good. So again, to remind you where we came from last year when we did NJSLA, we reviewed pre-COVID to post-COVID data, and we saw that we had made some gains back from where we were pre-COVID to post-COVID. Again, looking at this data, we have to be reminded that it took a lot of hard work from all these people out here to make this administration of the test happen. So thank you to everybody for having the test happen. And then we have started to focusing on students taking the test more seriously, diving into it with a more strategic mindset. So part of that is in the setup of the testing. Part of that is the whole building principals, administration, supervisors working with it to just administer the test. So this year, we certainly set up a new precedent with that, and that went into all the principal supervisors and everybody here. So thank you. So before we get into the data, here we are. Our theme for tonight is consistency with a growth mindset. So we want to be consistent, but we have to grow. One thing you'll notice is that we've been very consistent. But here's the caveat. A foolish consistency is the hobgoblin of little minds, i.e. we don't want to just stay focused on one thing and not being able to pivot, not being able to say to teachers in front of you, you have multiple different students who need to have differentiation, who are performing at different levels on these assessments. So that's the key for us. So we're keeping consistent, but we're looking at a growth mindset that shows us how we can increase our students' success. And in order to do that, we're going to set a benchmark. So my goal, the district goal, the conversation we're having with supervisors and principals and everybody is, how can we get a 3% increase on those who are proficient to become exceeding proficient or advanced proficient? How do we get a 7% increase on those people who are meeting expectations so that we can see a upward growth from our percentages in where we're going? And then on the converse of that, we'll lose 10% in the interim. We want to get rid of, those people not meeting, right? 3 and 7 at that level are a little bit more negligible because I believe that our students are ready to grow and are at the cusp. So as we break this down, we're going to be looking at 3 different things. There are 3-year, data review. We have to look at our subgroups and how they're performing, and then us and then the state to see how we look in relationship to the bigger picture. So the first thing that I want us to remember is that we have a lot of ongoing initiatives and systems going on from curriculum instruction, going on from our multilingual learners, going on from our special education and gifted talented programs. We have a lot of things that are going on that will be pointed out after we look at the data. What are the initiatives that are going on in order to address and redress these numbers? Like I said last year, these are not just numbers. We don't sell widgets here. We look at developing students into human beings who can manage and find the resources to be successful in life. So this data is to figure out how we help kids grow to be successful people. So here's our 3-year comparison. This is where the charts are going to start looking very hectic. All right, so I'm forewarning you, when we start to look at this chart, there's going to be a lot of numbers. I will point in two different directions. We'll look at the horizontal line, which is year to year. That tells you about the programs that we're running. Year to year performance is a way for us to review and think about how that program's performing. So third grade did this year, third grade did that next year, third grade did that next year. It's the teaching that's going on, it's the program that's going on, and that's part of one variable of what we're assessing. When we look at the diagonals, we're reviewing cohorts, right? So we see the person go from a third grader to a fourth grader, and we see, well, how's that cohort group of kids doing? Are they making any gains, or are they sliding backwards? So as we look at this data, we're going to be talking about that to ultimately drill down to what teaching practices are going to happen because of this data, right? That's the whole point. So our intention is to support levels 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 students, right? We could just say to you, we're going to focus only on the bubble kids, but no, we're not going to just focus on them. We're not just focusing on kids in level 1 or level 5. Every teacher has to recognize that in front of them in a classroom, they have students who are achieving a level 1 and achieving a level 5. And how do you make that student successful in your classroom is our goal. So what I did is I put these green lines to help give you a sense of what a teacher would be thinking. So you have the level 1 and level 2 numbers. Those students who are struggling the most need the most supports. That level 3 is what we typically call our bubble student. We see a lot of students in that area for us who, if with a little push, could be successful to hit proficiency. And then we have our proficient and our exceeding, expectation people. So that's 3 different individuals in a classroom. So in looking at the numbers, I'll use a little pointer here. You can see this big line here. What I did is circle this because we're consistent. Why is it consistent? It's nice that we went down negative 1.4% in those who are not meeting. So we're declining in those who are not meeting, which means the opposite, more people are proficient. We have a small growth of 0.3% increase in level 4 and 5. Again, consistent, right? But now we want to grow and see how we can increase that even more. When we look at the breakdown from year, oops, sorry, I hit the wrong button. Back to. So when we look from year to year, red versus green, we don't want to see increase in more people at level 1 and 2, right? We also don't want, we want to see, people going up in level 4 and 5. So for example, we assess 4th grade. Overall, we see in the cohort a increase in people who are not proficient. That means we have to address something in that programming, or is it the cohorts? And that's the conversation that we're having. These are the hard conversations that we need to start to have with teachers of what does it mean for us to grow students in this grade level? And then when we look from year to year, so that would be the one example that I gave you here. If you look at the 3rd grade in 2023, we had 11.6% who were meeting expectations. The next year, they are 4th graders. They're at 21%. That is a sign of growth. That is a direction that we want to go in. That is data that we want to look at and figure out how that happened to make that consistent in growing them as a cohort, if that makes sense. So that's where we're moving forward. So for me, as an example, talking to a teacher, I would say to them, and I gave this example in committee, you have in front of you. How do you support the students who are struggling at level 1 while helping those who are level 5 and the ones in the middle? So for example, you would give an open-ended question in an English class to students. To help the level 5, you would say, please help me write this open-ended question, maybe do some external research on it, Where in the level 3 group, you would say, okay, I want you to answer this question and then discuss it with the level 5s. With the level 1 and 2, you say open-ended question, but here's a word bank for you to focus in on those target concepts that you need to understand. So a teacher could take this data and start to look at, I am managing different students in the classroom. How am I differentiating with a single lesson? And that's part of the imperative of what we're doing with this data. Here's some of the intervention strategies, and I do want to brag about the fact that this data and the information comes from the supervisors, the directors themselves, right? We collaborated to understand what are the things that are currently in place and we're going to do. So we're implementing Connect Forward Learning in the preschool. We've added an essential piece is key. If we want to build our staff, we need to have targeted groups. So we've added instructional coaches. We've added teachers, again, implementing the ASI and the ESL and the dual-learning. Having that ASI support is imperative, right, for us. Key for me is also this partnering with the NJTSSER, which is a tiering system. It won't let me. Boom. So this New Jersey tiered systems of supports is exactly what I was talking about. For my example, you have to tier your learning. You have to address students where they are. You have to go, if you don't understand this skill, I'm going to look back to a skill to help you move forward. If you're advanced, I'm going to challenge you with a skill ahead. And those are key things for us to review. Let me just go back to this file. So Lamont Annex, and K through 3, you see you have multiple pieces going on. We have the WIN program, which is an imperative for helping students to connect with ways to grow and getting the supports that they need. So these are some of the things that we're doing. 7th and 8th grade, again, IXL data, iReady data is imperative. What can we do? We can take a look at the NJSL data, put next to it the benchmark data for IXL and for iReady, and put next to it the students' course grades. Those 3 data points are a way to reflect on how the student's doing. The student's doing very well in their classes, yet they're performing poorly on these benchmarks. We have a way to target and understand them. So that's imperative. And we see that happening 7 through 12 in a very intense way with the IXL, with writing benchmarks. And then the big piece that we're adding in is this common with tiered readings. And Muzilla we've had for a while with these leveled readings, which allows students to get the same content, but to read it at different levels, and allows them to be challenged and grow in a way that is going to help them succeed. So moving forward, here's math, right? Same thing. We want to think about the 3 tiers. We have our 1, 2, our 3, our 4, 5. Do I want to label students in this way? No. What we're doing is we're saying students who've scored at this level, students who've scored this level, what do we need to do to target their learning? That's what we're asking. We're not saying you're a 1 or a 2 human being. Again, we look at the numbers here, we're consistent. We had a decrease in levels 1 and 2, minor, right? Not as much as we'd want. We also had a small decrease in level 4 and 5, but 0.1% decrease over 3 years is not bad, right? It's not where we want to go. That's why we set this benchmark of 3% to 7% increase, and we want to then focus on what are we doing for each student. So again, in the math, we've added very specific things. You have adding the instructional coach, employing data to make small groups is an amazing thing. Benchmark data that we have, the NJSLA data will help set up the groups of the various students in the classroom. It's important. Key for 4 through 6, adding a math coach and space for math targeting small group instruction. Key additions to what we're doing. Same thing here with 7th, 8th grade as with English. IXL is important. The fact that we've added ASI support teachers for both 7th and 8th grade is imperative. That's the way we're going to take that minus 0.1% and start to target the students and grow them to be able to succeed in math. You'll see the same thing in the high school. They're expanding math coaching. Professional development has gotten very strong, and the bilingual math program is expanding. So all of these pieces are directly related to the conversations we're having because supervisors, principals are looking at this. Same thing with science. Science doesn't count, so to speak, right? For 20 years, the state's been saying the science data is going to count towards our, performance report. It doesn't so much. But what it does show us is how we're doing. Again, it's another place where we're being consistent, right? We have less people not being proficient. We have, again, 0.3 increase. It's not as grand as we'd want it to be, but it's pulling in the right direction. Same thing here. We have increase in materials for labs. We have teaching school-wide STEM enrichment activities. You'll notice STEM is happening everywhere from Lamont all the way to the high school. Right? That infusion is helping us address things. So those 3-year gains for science and English, we saw a small increase. That's positive, right? We have to have the conversation that our consistent proficient level is ranging between 37 and 40% of our students. That is something we need to change. And that's why we need the 3% growth in proficiency level over the next 3 years. If we get that, we can look at a 10% increase of students passing, being proficient. That's the essential goal for me. And as I said to the committee, we get 3 years at 3, that's 10%, right? I like to add 1, I round up. And then we end up with a baker's dozen, right? So that's 12, 13%. So that's our goal, really, is to set up 3%. Well, what are we doing? We're having to address not only learning style, but our subgroups, right? And our subgroups break it down by our programs, break it down by race, ethnicity. So we want to look at that and say, well, what are we doing in relationship to that concern? So here we're looking at English language arts by race, right? Ultimately, we can see multiple races. White are the places where where we're successful. We want to look at, okay, our major population here is Hispanic. So we need to sit down and have a conversation about what do we do to help our Hispanic population? What do we do to help our Black population be at a level where we want them to be? Especially, we're working on multilingual programs, especially we're working on our dual literacy, our biliteracy process. That's going to help us out. So what else will help us? Intention. We need to have intention with how we address these numbers. So it's called standards-driven teaching, where we're focusing on skills. Expand things like writing across the curriculum so that students will be able to do better with that. Now we look at mathematics by race. Again, the numbers are similar, and this is where we're consistent, right? We see the same consistent with our subgroups by race. White and multiple are at a 10 to 15% higher percentage than, and sometimes 20% higher than Hispanic and Black populations. Something we need to have a conversation about. What is it that we can do? What does it look like for standards-driven, skills-based teaching for all of our students, no matter what race, what gender, what program? So let's move to race with this. Science, you can see, is a place where we need to work on it the most. We have some of our lowest passing, but that is one of those things where we need to change the culture of understanding science matters, right? So I think part of that is what we're doing right now with making the testing more important for students. I think that will also impact our goals here. When we look at gender, as a district, and I said this last year, our gender is that we have a gender parity here. Both our young women and our young men are doing very well, and they do equally. They do have some of the standard fare of young boys, men doing better in math and English is for the girls. Women, we'll look at that. But so for me, what we need to start to do is recognizing the precision of the artist and the creativity of the scientist. What do I mean by that? Girls are scientists just as much as boys are. We should, we're in the 21st century, beyond those sexist stereotypes, I hope. But part of what we're doing is promoting a way of understanding how people think of themselves. right? Young women taking math tests often waste 20% of their brain thinking about the other people in the room. Young men don't do that. Why? Because you're told you're good at math. So statistics like that are real for the psychology of what we're doing, something we'll want to address. Because again, when we look at mathematics, we're still pretty even, right? It's not bad, but we want to make sure we're getting more people who are proficient. Same thing with science. We have a pretty good balance here. That, I think, speaks to the fact that we're treating our genders somewhat equally. Now for me, by program. This is where we understand we want to make sure we're supporting, and I believe we are doing what you saw, things to address these numbers. Right? Our special ed is at a 10%, and our EL is at 6% proficiency, meeting and exceeding. Right? So those are areas where the new programs are changing the teaching practices that are going on. You've heard about over the past year, programs that are just beginning now. Take time to show their, outcomes. So that's an imperative. We've just begun this year with the biliteracy. We've just begun a new special ed restructuring, and that's imperative for us to understand. Same thing with mathematics. Again, our major area is special ed and ELL. That is a standard. When we look at the state number, it's a standard process. Those are areas where a lot of students struggle, because those are the areas where students need the more targeted supports, and we're putting in programs to do that. Science, again, it's the same scenario where we really need to make sure we're supporting that subgroup. Our special ed programs are strong. And then the other piece that I did mention that I do want to mention is go back to look at free reduced lunch. So our, economically struggling student also is something that we want to pay attention to as well. So when we're teaching, we have to think about not only what we're doing in the classroom, but how we're helping out our families and how we're making sure that we're supporting and resourcing them that way. So that's key. So the last bit, I'm going to review of us versus the state. This is the more, this is the one where we have to work on our growth model. This is the one where we're noticing we aren't making the gains that we want. And we have to be open about that to have the real conversation of how we go about amending it. So these are where we're seeing the numbers. I'll also show you, I'll drill down into what teachers would use for, say, looking at the benchmark, diving into it, and how it would impact their teaching. So that will be now. So here is, for me, our concern, the red box, where we're at 42% in level 1 and the state average is 20, right? That's why I need 7% gains a year on that over the next 3-4 years. We need to have a higher gain, meaning we want to decrease that 42. However, we do see, if you look at this cohort, the 42% here, they were 32, so they made a 10% leap, right? Because less of them were at level 1. That's the right direction, right? But now what we need to do is consistency with a growth mindset. Right now, our consistency lies in our final numbers of overall growth. But if we look from year to year, we see disparity. So we need to be more consistent with our vertical articulation with our programs. And that's something that all the interventions are doing. And again, here you can even see, look, there's a growth again where there were 20% who were at level 2, but that same group in 7th grade were 10%, which is a good thing because ultimately 6th to 7th is a leap year, a year where it can be more difficult to grow. So that decrease is actually a sign of growth. And then we look here, this is where we want our 7% growth more with level 4, right? So it can be done. This group here is here. So we have 11% in the 3rd grade. Those people as 4th graders are at 21% of proficiency. That's imperative. So it can be done. We just have to do it intentionally, if that makes sense. So that's our goal. Same thing here. We see a growth from the 5th grade to the 6th grade. That can be done. We see growth here from 7th to 8th grade. That's what we're looking to intentionally do. What does it look like? It looks like us focusing on that. Same thing with level 5. You can see 4th grade to 5th grade, we increased almost 3%. So what it's showing us is we need to not only look at the things that students aren't doing, but we need to go and look at this and what was it that students understood so that we can teach to other areas. So we also have to praise ourselves and what are we doing well here? What's going on in this program that we need to reinforce? And that's imperative. So here's something that teachers are going to be doing and that the principals and that the supervisors are already doing. So this is a report that we get on the evidence statements for the various standards. So what you're looking at here is the chart. The blue or purple is the state, and then the green dots are our scores. Down below lists all the standards and the skills that they're being measured on. So teachers can break it down to say, okay, here's 8, which might be one of the bigger struggles for us, and 9, which are the bigger struggles for us because we don't do as well. So we can then pull those up, and we can see 7 and 8 here. Reading informational text and reading science and technical subjects are areas where we would want to work with our students. What would that then look like? So what they could do is evidence statements, and there's released items. So a teacher can take this released test item, which shows the questions, and break it down, and then they turn that into a lesson plan. That makes sense for you. So the folks who are not teachers, here's the way that it goes. For us, we're looking at the data at this level to understand, here's all the standards that are being tested in this test. How are our students doing? What are the ones where we're finding the biggest struggle? From there, we start to isolate them, informational text, science, technical subjects. Then we go to and we pull out evidence, right? We pull out things that are out there for us to utilize. So we look at the test. And then we can say to them, what is it on this test that you're trying to learn that was a struggle? And then that becomes a lesson for your student. That's the key. So I'm just showing you that drill down of how this data from NJSLA is actually changing what teachers are doing in the classroom. So that's the goal for me. All of this stuff only matters if it empowers teachers to do something more with their students. So same thing here with our math levels, right? We are, again, we're higher than the state when it comes to level 1 and 2, and that's what we want to decrease. We want to make sure that we're focusing on it. We can see that it's very much possible. From 5th to 6th grade, this group went down 5%. That's a good thing. Level 2s, right? A lot of them went down here, but we don't, we go over here. So this is a good step. It's important for us to focus on what is going right as much as we focus on where people are struggling. Again, for me, this is the proficiency levels. And we can see here in 6th grade, 7th grade, that group increasing and moving forward. So that's the strategy for us. Looking at this data, figuring out where we made gains, looking at across the board where 30 and 23, okay, it's good we went down here, 20 and 28, it's good we went up here. So that speaks to our programs, right? I said there's the 2 lines we're looking at. So just to finalize this for you, this is a good line looking at our 3rd grade program and saying, okay, what's going on in there that we can reinforce? How do we support them? Versus we look here and we go 14 to 20%. How's that cohort doing, right? That group of 6th graders who are now 7th graders. Same thing with our 5s. We want to make sure we're always supporting everybody and seeing our proficient students also move to advanced. Same thing with our science level. We, again, are higher than the state, but, we are moving up when it comes to relationships of level 3s, and our level 4s are where we need to really focus. So this, for me, is the idea of we're looking to get 7% growth here, 3% growth there, and we can get to things. So what does this data show us? We're consistent. We do see minor gains. Our students are not passing at the rate that we want it to be. So in order to get them to grow, we have to do what I showed you with the data of looking the evidence, have students review, these questions, have them critically think, and then have the lessons reflect and support them. And this is where we end. Started with Emerson, with a foolish consistency is the hobgoblin of little minds. We'll kind of end with, unless you try to do something beyond what you've already mastered, you'll never grow. So that's what the data is showing us. It's showing us that, one, we have interventions in place that we need to continue. We have programs that we've just started. We have to look for those numbers coming up next year and the year after. This is probably a 3-year model. Like I said, the 3% growth is year to year. Ideally, 10% over 3 years would be a tremendous growth for us to see. And that's where we're looking to go. Questions, concerns, major malfunctions? So again, there's a lot of data. There were 88 slides to begin with. We pared it down. Advisors did a great job in sharing the ongoing pieces that are happening. I think that's where I want to leave us. So any questions, and I'll hold up these things so that they can address them.
Thank you, Mr. Rose.
Yeah.
So anybody have any questions or comments to share? Go ahead.
I have a question. How much of this do we feel is students' anxiety over test taking, or their relative to, you know what I mean? Like
I
the
think-
relationship to test taking,
That impacts
data out of the
students
test
a lot, and I believe that's part of what we're doing in working to create a more comfortable and a more prepared student. So yes, like I was saying before, there is that statistics. Stanford did a study where they put a woman in with other men and taking a math test, she would score a lot lower than if she was sitting in with all women. So that, utilizing 20% of your brain to think about the fact that you're around other people and there's this gender stereotype that you have to fight wastes your math brain. So yes, we do deal with test taking anxieties, and I think part of our setting it up, last year we had a test pep rally
Yeah.
for people to get them comfortable with it, to tell them to believe in themselves, to empower them, helping teachers. And again, this is something I said at committee, teachers with the kindest heart say to students, yeah, we don't like the test, we're over test. Yes, we are, but we have to say to students, I believe in you and you are ready to manage this test. The other part, we need to just think. So I think it's a culture shift for us that we're also making, because I don't blame teachers for that. It's just one of those things where the, path to the, fiery place should be paved with good intentions.
Yeah.
I also think, if we talk about test anxiety, it is very real, but it's not a Bound Brook issue. And therefore comparing us to the rest of the state kind of takes that out of the equation, because every kid has anxiety, right? So
Well,
I don't know that our kids have any more test anxiety than a kid from Bridgewater is what I'm saying,
I
right?
guess
Or a kid from,
I'd be asking that question of
Well,
us
that's-
as a district, as a community. Do our kids have any situational needs where test taking isn't as easy? Do kids in Bridgewater feel more confident than kids in Bound Brook? It's just a question. I don't know.
That's a component, it's a variable, and it's one that we consider, absolutely, which is why when we set up our testing now, we're doing it in a much more intentional way.
Right.
And that's something that Dr. Freeman has led and pushed the initiative on for me, and I'm very interested in it. I know Ms. Ainello, and I know all principals are looking at the test to say, hey, wait a second, we're gonna set it up where you're most comfortable, where you walk into the environment and you know what's going on. You're fed well, because we really focus in on just having a breakfast, getting kids settled, making sure that they go in. So it is a very important factor, because I know for me as a test taker with dyslexia and ADHD, it was a bad thing, and all I could hear was pencils. So my brain would be completely distracted by everybody else's taking the test, that on the paper. So that is something that's very real and something that we address. Can we address it in this data? Yeah, in the sense that we are looking at setting up testing to let people know the hard work they've done is going to help them, and then also that internal belief.
Well, and I think seeing if a kid does well on a test, right?
Yep.
Their confidence grows, and then maybe they perform better the next test they take. So, you know, is there a way to pull data that shows kids that have just incrementally done better on the tests through services provided, like, you know, environment, getting a nice breakfast, feeling relaxed, you know, the environment around them while they're taking the test? We want to look at how those things are actually.
So for me, the NJ GPA data speaks to that most loudly,
Okay.
because we haven't had that much time to change the program. The NJ GPA has only been around 3 years, and we made a 10% leap in English the year before. We made a 17% leap this year. And it really does have something, I think, to do with the aura that was created around the testing, the whole team setting it up, the administration, you know, talking to kids about it in a more dynamic way. Those gains over 2 years, I would say quantitatively can't just be the program.
Right.
If it is, then we need to take that program and sell it because we're going to be millionaires. But I think part of it was creating a good environment.
And I'm also looking at, you know, one of our district goals is to look at data and to use data and to have that really be part of the process now with everybody, so that you're going to be looking at the scores. I like looking at the standard, which ones need to be addressed. Just, I mean, it breaks it down into what needs to be done. It's going to take time. And like you said, this is a 3-year goal ultimately, but it's a very strong goal and needed.
And what you're saying, this helps the teacher reflect on the standards that they're teaching, and it helps reinforce it, because it's not always easy as a teacher to constantly be thinking about every standard you're teaching. So us having the conversation about the data helps to reinforce and give them that common language. I think part of our improvement plan is establishing a more common language around standards. Like, that's a word that just wasn't bandied about in the way it is now. Standard, the skill. What is the skill? So now the teachers are having a conversation about, well, what does it mean to read a science and technical piece? What does the domain-specific science article do differently than reading an article about a business or an economy article? So I think those things are out there.
And also having the coaches available and going into the classrooms and modeling what those lessons will look like. So it'll all come together.
Thank you to all those people who are establishing those programs.
Yes.
So,
Mr. Wells, first I want to start off by saying thank you for the presentation. Thank you to the administration and everybody else. As you mentioned, putting together 88 slides into this was not easy.
Yeah.
I mean, even just looking at the mountains of data that's on here, it's like brain overload.
Yeah.
Hypothetical question for you. With the interventions that we currently have today, with all the assistance programs, the coaching, the professional development, everything that we've been doing this year, do you feel that the numbers that are shown us today, would they have dropped? Would that consistency not be shown if we didn't have what we have today?
I think we have been, over the past 3 years, discovering all the systems that need repair and starting.
So if we
Over the
didn't,
past 3 years, we've, I think, had to uncover the things that were necessary. So then once you get to the things that are necessary, it's starting to implement it. So I think we've had a 3-year buildup to starting what's going to now create
what I'm saying is
growth.
that if we didn't do that, would the numbers have continued to go down?
I could have seen absolutely, yeah, hypothetically speaking, if we didn't start to have these conversations, students would be struggling more because it's harder. I think things are becoming more.
So as a parent, I do want to thank you guys and the administration for a lot of the programs and that you put in. So thank you to everyone for doing that.
And it translates to bottom line for me to teachers. Like for me, the big theme that I hope I'm reinforcing is teacher practices and them being able to be the teachers being more resourced in the classroom to support. So that being in the bilingual programs and the multilingual, the biliteracy, that and the interventions, that having a coach in the room, for me to have somebody to talk to is a great thing.
Yes, yes, and I agree 100% with you on that. One question I do have, when you mention the consistency of a 1% or
Yeah.
0.3%, what is that in terms of numbers? In
Well,
students?
it's a hodgepodge of a mess. So in the grand scheme of things, all grades are making just a little bit of a gain. And so that's a number that, am I really hanging my hat on that? Not really, because I can still see here that this group did have a lot over the 3 years. We did see it go down in so much as we have 9% more level 1 and 2s. So that's something where, for me, the 4th grade, what are we doing to address that program? Because that would be, when I talked about it, there's 2 levels. There's the year, so that's studying the program. So that's a conversation we need to have out loud. What is going on in the 4th grade program that's working well? Where are areas that we can grow it? Why did this happen? Just even that conversation of why is this going on allows teachers to reflect on their practices and allows everybody to grow, right? So
So-
that's the key.
So based on my level of understanding, and help me if my math is wrong here, we're saying there was, hypothetically speaking, there was 100 kids in 1st grade, and that dropped.
There was 100 kids in so 4th grade is 100 kids there.
I mean,
And we had more people not, of those hundreds, there is a 10%, almost 10% more who did not meet the expectations. Who got lower than 10. And you weren't even approaching. So that's a conversation that we have. Then what we can do is what I showed you with the drill down, is we look at our benchmark tests that we're giving with IXL and iReady. We look at our classroom assessments, and we compare the 3 of those together. And we say, if a student's doing well on this test and doing, but not doing well here, what's the issue? We often see where students perform well in class, but then don't do well on the test. Kind of what you're talking about with, could it be test anxiety, or does the student need supports, or is our work that we're giving not rigorous enough to make sure that the student can succeed on the assessment? All those are valid questions. Yes, sir.
Okay, just one thought on that. I think one of the things we talked about in committee was the idea of how overwhelming this whole journey might be to someone who looks at it and says, wow, we are double-digit percentages off of just the state average, let alone,
Yes.
excelling. And how does that get translated to our teachers? How does it get translated to our students? I think Danny actually picked up on something really important for me at least, which is, I know the hypothetical was 100 kids, but what was our enrollment? It's more like 150, maybe 160 kids per grade.
Yep.
Really, we're talking about 1% of the population being somewhere between 1 and 2 kids per grade. So when you break it down to that level, if we're talking about somewhere between a 3 and 7% increase, it's moving just a small number of kids. And the reality is that investment and that focus can have a dramatic impact on what we're doing.
And that was actually going to be my next point.
Yeah, when you break it down that way, if you think about it, if each teacher in each grade moves 1 kid,
Right.
1 kid up a level, there's your 3%, more than 3%.
And that's the goal with, I think, for me, the teaching practices changing, because then you're supporting the students. And that's the bottom line. I keep repeating it, and I will be redundant.
And I would say, to go back, as a teacher, if you told me you gotta move 1 kid, as opposed to showing me, we gotta move 50%.
Yeah.
If you said, move 1 kid this year, and then next year, move another kid.
Yeah.
To me, then I'm like, oh, that's not overwhelming. I can move a kid. Keep everybody else where they are and move 1 kid up. I can do
You
that.
move that kid, and then that kid maybe inspires another kid to
Pushes-
move,
yeah.
and then you inspire somebody else.
Right,
So
yeah.
for me, it is.
It is doable.
Curious if you have any feedback, is our gut sense, or do we have data that supports an opinion about, do we feel that the data we get from iReady, from IXL, is it predictive of how a child does on NJSLA? Are we seeing a discrepancy there? Or do we have a lot of
Yeah, I
confidence
mean,
in that
that I
data?
haven't drilled into as much over what we're doing, but yes.
Yes.
You tend to see,
Ron, you want to expand on
yeah,
that?
you do see that, yeah.
So we did notice in the data that we were getting in the past, it was a huge discrepancy. So our students were performing better in district, and then when we did the state exams, the results were shocking because it wasn't matching. But we did notice, it's only been 1 year, so we only have 1 year to look at, so it could be fluke, I don't know. But we did notice that the information that we got from iReady and iExcel last year does match how the students did on the state test. So it is where we believe it should be a better predictor of how our students are performing. So we'll see this year if it matches.
And I think that's for me where we go state information, benchmark, and that those two comparison can change what teachers are doing. So when we look at course grades, that's what needs to shift. Because I think the course grade is where we're not the only district in the world where grade inflation is a thing. Where, you know, it's a matter, right? It's one of those things where for me, I've seen it, I've been in teaching since 1998. I was more of a bell curve human being. And then when I stopped teaching at Rutgers 3 years ago, I was handing out all A's. I don't know what happened. You know, I softened up. I don't know. I felt bad for him. But it's one of those things where I think that is going to be a key for us because those two, benchmark and state, can then really help inform what we're doing with our courses and our programs and our teachers to say, hey, look, why is it this kid got 100, but they only scored at level 3? And that's, again, another good conversation to have.
Any final comments or questions? I will just echo the thoughts of my fellow board members in saying thank you for a fantastic presentation. You know the work is not easy.
Yes.
Not only to get to the point where you have everything compiled, but presented in a manageable way. And so to you and the whole administrative team, thank you for the work you're putting in here.
Thank you much, folks. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Hey. And if you ever want to read, I'll take that. Yeah. It's fun. If you ever want to read a good one, read Emerson, Nature. Good stuff. Yay.
All right, we are now up to our student board member report. Take it away.
So short report today. So to start our sports teams, boys soccer is currently 10-7 with their next game tomorrow against Belvedere and their senior night next Tuesday at 6 p.m. which decides if they win the Skyline Mountain Division. Girls soccer is currently 5-9-1 with their next home game on 29th against Central Jersey College Charter at 4 p.m. Football is currently 1-5 with their next game this Friday at 7 p.m. against New Providence. This game is also their senior night and their homecoming game. Girls tennis is currently 4-13 with their next home game being next Tuesday against Phillipsburg at 4. Girls volleyball is currently 6-9 with their next home game being next Tuesday at 4 p.m. against Thomas Edison Energy Charter. They also had a tournament last weekend with, I believe, 3 other teams, and they earned second place. And lastly, girls basketball is hosting an Applebee's breakfast on Sunday at the location in Bridgewater, with admission being $14 and all proceeds going to the team. Under school related, our homecoming dance is October 19th, with the theme being the night in Paris. PSAT and SAT testing will take place on both the 22nd and 23rd respectively for all grades. The high school had a Hispanic recognition assembly yesterday with representatives of each country by the students and a performance from award-winning Paraguayan dancers and performers, which was widely enjoyed by students from all the grades. And the high school hosted a college fair on October 9th, which had a great turnout with more than 20 colleges present, and it was a great way for students to learn about their options after high school. That's it.
Awesome. That wasn't a short report at all. That was a great full report. Thank you. Good job. Any questions? All right, great work. We are now up to our committee reports. The first one up is education. Mr. Dawson, it's okay. I will just let everybody know that we spend the preponderance of our time with Mr. Ross and Mrs. Griffin going through the presentation that you just received. So again, job well done. Up to governance, Mr. Ballard.
Okay, a few items. First, we took a look at our draft of the strategic plan. There are 3 sections of the strategic plan. One was just we have all the goals and objectives that we formed. They have now, Mr. Ross and his team have included now action plans for each of those goals. So they have actionable items over a 5-year span. So they can track actively what they're doing to meet those goals. And then lastly, they added which I think is really valuable, a section where it shows the role of each administrator from superintendent all the way down to content coaches, exactly how they will contribute to each of those goals and what their responsibility will be to help meet those goals. So we went through all of that. It was well explained to us, so that you guys know we also want to and expect to have open, honest conversations we haven't decided what interval yet, whether it's yearly or twice a year or quarterly, we don't know, but regularly to assess the progress on this strategic plan, because those of you in education know that they tend to kind of go by the wayside and sit on a shelf, and we really don't want that to happen in there. So we want to make sure that we're keeping up with the progress on that and making sure progress is met, and if it's not, why not, and how can we adjust as we go along, so it's not 5 years from now and then we say, oh, wait a minute, we forgot goal 2. So we want to just make sure we're moving along, and things are broken down in the plan by year 1 and 2, year 3 and 4, year 5. So it is broken. It's not as though it says, here's 5 years worth of stuff, do it all at your leisure. It says, here's what you do now, here's what you do next, and so on and so on. So I don't know exactly when, but we should all be getting that plan relatively soon, because it looks like it's pretty close to complete at this point. Next. Oh, any questions on, I guess we should do them one at a time. Any questions on the strategic plan?
The only thing that I would add is we discussed the potential socialization. And so not necessarily just to publish it for the community, expect everybody to come and read, but really to go back to the group that contributed to it primarily and affirm that we understood and we heard and we incorporated all of the feedback that we possibly could.
Right.
So levels of socialization as we start to spread the word around.
Yeah, so not just having those updates here, but actually maybe holding a meeting, personally reaching out to the stakeholders who showed up to create the plan and say, here's where we are, maybe yearly, and let them know. And of course, invite everybody else, every other stakeholder, whoever wants to come, but those who actually created the plan would probably want to see, how it's going. All right, second, we talked a little bit more about, hopefully you remember last month, we talked about the PE exemption for athletes. We looked at 2 different plans. One was Point Pleasant Borough and one was, I forget the other one, but Long Branch. Okay, there you go, Long Branch. They were very different for sure, but we kind of said, here's what we like about this one, here's what we like about that one. Dr. Freeman took it upon himself to say, I'm going to go ahead and try to draft something that would work for our district. Some of the things we liked, one of them had logs for students that they would have to log their physical activity, but then it brings up points like, who's checking those logs and where does that happen? Are we burdening people with extra work? So there's a lot of logistics that have to be worked out, but on its face, the idea of the exemption is something that we like as a committee. Obviously, we have to flesh out the details and see how it's going to work in our district, which Dr. Freeman is going to do for us, and then we'll be able to bring you a little bit better idea of the exact plan that we'll be going with. The next one is an interesting one. I don't know if you saw did you send that email to everyone about Plainfield? No. Okay, so Plainfield recently, their Board of Ed passed a resolution. And that resolution said basically, we want to go to municipalities, we want to go to, through NJSBA, we want to go to municipalities, and we want a seat at the table when we're discussing pilots in town. As I hope most of us are aware now, the pilots that we have here in our town don't give the school board any additional tax money. And legally, they don't have to. That's the way the law is structured. So, not that we have any official power, we don't vote at the borough council, of course, but we would like to sit and have an honest conversation with them about how it's impacting us in a variety of ways, financially and, student numbers and many different ways. And so Plainfield actually passed this resolution. So as a committee, we have asked Mr. Gorski to draft a resolution for us as well that we will present in November. Obviously, we hope that you'll support it as a committee. We felt that it was something that deserved support, but it will be in hopefully November's meeting agenda so that you can for yourself.
If I could add 2 points to that. The first one, I think for our part, especially with new administration and significantly different composition of the board, we've had good and productive conversations with our borough administrative team, with our council, Mr. Lopez, thank you again for attending our meeting. And so I think probably our most dire need for this type of an intervention could likely be passed. Not that we've gotten to a place where we're satisfied with the result, but certainly we have an open dialogue with our council, and if we felt like we needed to have a conversation, that door is open to us. Really, I think what the Plainfield Board of Education is asking is legislatively across the board for the entirety of New Jersey. Should this be an expectation, or should it be something that's left up to the level of cooperation between local school boards and municipalities? And I think in that way, it makes a lot of sense for us to support it. Part of my reason for bringing it to the governance committee is because this will go to NJSBA's delegate assembly in December, and Bound Brook, like any of the other districts that are a part of that association, will have an opportunity to vote on it. So really, this is me asking the board, when it comes time to go to delegate assembly, which way do we want to vote? How can I represent that?
Okay, and lastly, we look like we are ready to move forward with the committee we spoke about a few months ago with South Bound Brook, the joint committee. They would like to meet the first week of December. I actually emailed really late today, I apologize, I think it was 3 p.m. by the time I got an email out to you guys about it. At committee, Joanna, Sue, and I all volunteered. As I said in the email, if anybody feels really strongly that you would like to be included, we can maneuver things to make that happen. But as of now, the three of us have all volunteered to do it, so we have the three that we need, unless somebody else really wants it.
And just a comment on the number of delegates that we are sending. We're restricted, obviously, we don't want to do this short of a quorum, and our quorum requirement is 5. Southbound Brook, because they have less Board of Education members, can only bring 3 people to the meeting before they reach that maximum. So just to make sure that we start everybody off on even footing, we thought that it was a good idea that both groups brought the same number of people.
And I'm one of the Southbound members.
Yeah, if you have anything to add for that, no?
No, I mean, we're looking forward to it.
Okay. And that's all I have for governance. Any questions on any of those items?
All right. Yes, so Mr. Zepko is not here tonight. I will endeavor to do an operations report, but Mr. Gorski, I ask that you pay attention and keep me honest. I think one of the biggest items that we discussed during operations committee really was the results of the water test at Lafayette School. If you'll remember, subsequent to the construction project, we felt that there was an excessive amount of water infiltrating the basement area. There have been a number of different remedial measures that have been taken, first by the contractor and then exploration through our own architect's office. Most recently, we had a specific study designed to determine if and how water was getting into the building. That was conducted at the end of last week, and as you probably saw in the weekend report, the results were not very good. So we had significant water infiltration. So we are intending to take next steps on that. It likely will require us to do more exploration, potentially excavation, and remediation. So there is more work involved, but we finally conclusively have replicated the infiltration issue, and we're exploring that. Mr. Gorski, did I cover that well? Is there anything you would add?
The item to add is I believe that it's going to be a closed session discussion tonight because of potential litigation.
That was gonna be my question. Okay.
Mr. Gorski, was there anything else that we covered? Maybe just a quick comment that we are wrapping up the audit at this point.
I don't believe we had the audit on this month, that was the previous, but we did have a discussion about the consideration of a modular addition at Lamont Annex.
Yes, please.
And the district is required by the state of New Jersey to expand our PEA, preschool education grant program, to allow more room for students. And right now, we're really curtained by the amount of space that we have in our building. So initially, we looked at a contracted service with a vendor who provides and hosts the PE service for students. And we talked about potential lease details. And then administration came up with an idea of a modular addition to the school and how that could compare as opposed to renting space to build on the building that we already own. And we would have equity in the future use of it as whatever we want it to be. As it turns out, the cost of the modular expansion is very favorable compared to the overall lease cost. And it can be erected and affixed to the school in about time. We toured today South River School District, who has a new early childhood center. And we were very impressed with what we saw there today. And we're very appreciative of the administration at South River's Board of Education for allowing us to meet with them for over an hour today to tour the facility. We're still exploring that option, but I think there was a lot of attraction to what that offers. The fact that we can do it without a bond referendum, right out of capital reserve, and we could extend and meet the state's requirement for enrollment in the program, which right now we're doing a waiver each year. And then the third item on the agenda was an update on the bleachers and the high school gym. We had a structural engineer review the gymnasium and determined that significant cracking along the structural areas of the gym was caused by the seismic activity that we had, the earthquake a few months ago. We've submitted an insurance claim, and we're going to put together bid specifications for construction enhancement of the gym itself by adding a little bit of backbone and spine with rebar that is going to be inserted in the blocks from the top all the way down into the slab every 3 or 4 feet to firm up that facility. The question that's on the table now is, what about the bleachers? They seem to be in an area of cracking, and are they safe? The structural engineer has written a report. He said they are safe, but he did put some disclaimers in the report that made the board uncomfortable. So what the committee had decided was we are going to, and Mr. Chudzi, correct me if my wording is wrong here, we are going to limit occupancy of the main bleachers in the gym until the construction is finished, and that includes an enhancement of the bleacher connection to the wall.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Gorski. Before we get to open session for questions, I'm going to look down this end of the table because thankfully we had 2 of our board members who were actually able to attend and participate in the tour at South River. So Sue or Don, do you have anything you'd like to add?
I'll tell you, the visitation today was just wonderful. We walked in really not knowing what to expect. They're doing a lot in that district. But we walked in and I just think we were so pleasantly surprised with what we saw. The rooms were large, they were welcoming, they started the process in February, started building in April, and were able to have students in for the opening of school in September. That timeline was just incredible, that they actually met that timeline. They have a few things that they're still working on, but overall, it's so doable. You know, it just was so nice to see that this is a solution and would really meet our needs of housing the students in the classrooms that we need. Can't say enough, it was very, very positive.
I'd say that the size of their complex was about 25,000 square feet. They had it done in 6 months. We need roughly, I think, 5,500 is what Mr. Gorski had said. So it could be done very quickly. The same architect that we're using now is the architect that did that. So he's got the experience, he's got the hands-on. And when you think of modular, you know, the perception is like a trailer that you see in a mobile home, mobile park. This is just a freestanding permanent building. I think they said 35 year
They said
expectancy.
35-year expectancy, but he was very confident saying this could last like 70, 80 years with proper upkeep. So it would be a permanent building.
Really, it was very impressive.
Good, very nice.
Well, thank you both for your assessment and for attending.
Questions?
Yeah, I don't know how far along we are in that process, but first, how many classrooms are we talking about adding to Lamont? And also, where on the grounds does it go?
So I think the answer to that is 4, and it would be if if the church is to your left, and you're in the parking lot, it would be to the extreme right of the property. Mr. Gorski, can you confirm?
That is correct. It would be, at least 4, maybe 5. We're still determining, the future need. And it would be on the parking lot. And as Dr. Freeman has brought up concerns about traffic and parking, we're looking to address those, but they don't seem to be insurmountable.
Other comments or questions? Well, thank you for being patient with my report, and Mr. Gorski, thank you for filling in the gaps. Somerset County?
Did we do it, John?
Did you?
Skipped it.
I did, I'm sorry, I went back. Point of order. Go back to HR.
Okay, we can do human resources. So the first thing we always do every month is just look at the spreadsheet with new hires and resignations, transfers, etc. One thing that is new and on the agenda tonight is called H1B. It's a visa sponsorship. It's a 3-year visa, and candidates who come into this have to have a bachelor's degree or higher in the field that they're going to be working in. And we're looking at how this is going to be advantageous to us in areas such as bilingual and for world languages. Our responsibilities district-wide require just keeping track of dates, the things that we have to do, the fingerprinting for the background checks, et cetera, observations, evaluations, et cetera. There is a fee with that, and that is for the attorneys, and they have to get all the necessary documents, and they just deal with the professional fees. This is something that there is a job that's coming up. The description is brought to light and reviewed. And just looking at data coordination positions on the agenda and attendance coordinator. One of the other things that we discussed was having a substitute grounds worker, so that when, if somebody is out, that there is somebody who can come in and fill for that day or however long they need to be in that position. And looking to find, somebody hopefully locally who, and to have a salary that really will want to keep, to have them stay and, keep up with being in Bellbrook. The last thing that we discussed was the MERU, and that's a mental health program, and it was the update. It was very well received. This program was initiated through a grant after COVID. And presently we have 18 who are subscribing in the therapeutic program and 4 who are in the coaching program. The grant period for this is over, and we're just looking at ways that we can transition this as a budget item. It's a wider scope of care, and it helps with goal setting and really working with individual mental health. And Mr. Gorski is going to contact them just for a proposal, just to look at funding opportunities so that we can continue this program. And I think other than that, that's it. Questions?
Keep going.
But I'm gonna continue now. So, with the Somerset County, with ESC, there was a lot that's happened in the last really 2 months. They do their reorganization meeting like in August and September. And one of the things it really was the new meeting dates, the review of the organizational chart, just a directory which updates all admin, teachers, schools, contact numbers, etc. They had the district goals. There were 4, and I'm not going to go into everything that's in them, but I will tell you what the four are. It's student enrollment in programs, marketing with websites and social media, building and grounds technology, just to improve the building as it is. And they're looking at some major improvements and projects that are going on in the 24-25, and actually going into the 26 school year. And the other thing is the special ed transportation. They only do the routing now for special ed. They got rid of all those buses, et cetera, so that they're moving on with that. There was a smooth transition, a successful transition to the opening of the school year. They are relocating the transportation from the central office into an adjacent building because they too are expanding and they need more classrooms. So part of that is moving a multi-purpose room, making 3 classrooms upstairs, and also adding more space with the transportation change. The present enrollment, they started in September with 138 students. They're now at 146. So they too are, they're growing. And I think that is it. That will cover it.
Questions for Sue on either HR or the SCES? All right, hearing none, thank you, Sue. We are up to item 4.6, our Southbound Brook report, Ms. Carl.
So I only have 2 things this week. Our strategic planning, our first meeting is October 29th. I'll make sure that the flyer's out to you guys. We'll be meeting also in November and December, and I apologize, I left my so I don't have those dates. The only other thing, nothing exciting, it's still early in the year. We did just approve tonight the paving of the Elizabeth Street parking lot, which is in really bad shape. So they'll be doing that in a couple of weeks, and then they'll also be paving the Madison Street parking lot as well. That's it.
Very good. Thank you, Ms. Carlton. Any questions for Southbound Brook report?
I just want to say hooray for that parking lot, because that was like a minefield, you know, going through that. That's really, I'm glad to hear that.
The school just took ownership of it over, I think, 2 months ago.
Oh,
So,
good.
All right, that closes our committee reports. We are up to item number 5. Open to the public for agenda items. Any comments from the room? Mr. Fittipaldi, anybody online?
There's no responses online.
Sir, moving on, we are up to item 6.1, be it resolved that the Bound Brook Board of Education, upon recommendation of the superintendent, approves the minutes for the following meetings, regular and executive meeting minutes for September 25th, 2024. Can I have a motion?
Motion.
Thank you, Mr. Bowles. Second.
second.
Thank you, Ms. Carlton. Any discussion? All right, hearing none, Mr. Gorski, a roll call, please.
Mr. Bell?
Yes.
Mr. Dawson?
Yes.
Ms. Casino?
Yes.
Ms. Carlton?
Yes, except I abstain on 7.29 to 7.44.
You're on 6. You're good.
Oh, I'm 6, I'm sorry, yes. Jumping at it.
Ms. Carlton, any abstentions? on
No,
that?
yes, I accept.
Thank you. Mr. Minhas?
Yes.
Ms. Hyde?
Yes.
Mr. Palmer?
Yes.
Mr. Januski?
Yes.
Motion passed.
Thank you. Item 7.1, be it resolved that the superintendent recommends for approval the resolutions as outlined in district personnel resolutions. This is item 7.2 through 7.44. Motion?
Motion.
Thank you, Mr. Bowles. Second?
Second.
Let me give it to Mr. Dawson. Any discussion? All right, hearing none, can we have a roll call, please?
Mr. Bell?
Yes.
Mr. Dawson?
Yes.
Ms. Casino?
Yes.
Ms. Carlton?
Yes, except 7.29 to 7.44, I abstain.
Sure. Thank you.
Mr. Minhas?
Yes.
Ms. Hyde?
Yes.
Mr. Palmer? Excuse me, Mr. Palmer?
Yes.
7.1, how do you vote, sir?
Back to you, Mr. Bowman. I think
Are you a yes for section 7?
Yes.
Yes.
Absolutely.
That's an affirmative, sir.
Thank you. And Mr. Januzzi?
Yes.
Motion passes.
8.1, be it resolved that the Mount Vernon Board of Education approves the resolutions as outlined in district education resolution. 8.2 through 8.21. Have a motion?
Motion.
Thank you, Mr. Bao. A second.
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Carlton. Any discussion? We are all talked out. Mr. Gorski, roll call, please.
Certainly, Mr. Bell.
Yes.
Mr. Dawson.
Yes.
Ms. Casino.
Yes.
Ms. Carlton.
Yes, but I abstain from 8.6 to 8.21.
Thank you. Mr. Minhas.
Yes.
Ms. Hyde.
Yes.
Mr. Vollmer.
Yes.
And Mr. Januzzi.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you. Item 9.1, be it resolved that the Mount Vernon Board of Education approves the resolutions as outlined in board action resolutions. This is 9.2 through 9.34. Can I have a motion?
Motion.
Thank you, Ms. Carlton. A second. Thank you, Ms. Hyde. Any discussion?
I want to thank for the donation and, have fun at the ribbon cutting ceremony.
Absolutely. Any other comments or questions? Hearing none, can we have a roll call, please, Mr. Gorski?
Mr. Bell.
Yes.
Mr. Dawson.
Yes.
Ms. Casino.
Yes.
Ms. Carlton.
Yes, and I abstain 9.5 and 9.14.
So moved. Thank you.
Mr. Minhas.
Yes.
Ms. Hyde.
Yes.
Mr. Vollmer.
Yes.
And Mr. Januzzi.
Yes, with abstentions on 9.23 and 9.25.
So the motion passes. Thank you.
Thank you. We are now on to other matters to come before the board. I have not received any. Any new business from the members? Hearing none. We are now open to the public for discussion. This could be on any topic, doesn't have to just be agenda related. Mr. Fittipaldi, anything online?
Nothing online.
Anybody? in the room? No, good. All right. We are now up to item 13.1. Move to go into executive session, which is resolved that the Mount Vernon Board of Education enter executive session as allowed by NJSA 10:4-11 for the purpose of, Mr. Merriman?
1, 7, and 8.
1, 7, and 8. Thank you, sir. I have a motion.
Motion.
Thank you, Mr. Bauer. Second.
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Dawson. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. We are adjourned to executive. Mr. Triplowitz.
No.
All right, everybody, welcome back. We are up to item 14.1, be it resolved that the Bound Board of Education approves the resolutions as outlined in approval of HIV cases under middle and elementary schools. This is item 14.2. Have a motion?
Motion.
Thank you, Mr. Ballard. Second. Thank you, Ms. Zunino. Roll call, please.
Beg your pardon, who was second?
Ms. Zunino.
Mr. Bell,
Yes.
Mr. Dawson,
Yes.
Ms. Gazino,
Yes.
Ms. Carlton.
Abstain.
Thank you. Mr. Minhas,
Yes.
Ms. Hyde,
Yes.
Mr. Bowman. Yes. And Mr. Januzzi.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you. We are up to item 15.1. I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion.
Thank you, Mr. Ballard. Ooh, Ms. Carlton with the second. All in favor?
Aye.
All done. Have a good night.
Say that.